So now we've got our wooden barrel and we've got our loop. So next thing we need to do is, if we're happy with that as a shape and we're happy with it, looks like a barrel, it's got our loops on, I'm now going to think about giving it some UVs. But before I do that, I can see a couple of smoothing group issues with my barrel. So I'm just going to select here, and we can see, so this has a smoothing group of 4, this top one has a smoothing group of 1, this top has 1 as well. So I'm just going to select that loop and give it a smoothing group, so it's getting rid of those faceted edges. Get rid of those faceted edges, just to clean up and tidy up what we're doing. Okay, so next is UVs. So if I select my object, come to my material editor, drag this material on, come down to my diffuse and put my checker pattern on. So I'm going to use my checker pattern to double check whether there's any distortion in my UVs. And I say show in viewport. We can see clearly that there's quite a few issues with this shape. Stretched polygons, that are UVs there at the top, really distorted, so we need to definitely go in and fix this. So I'm going to select my selection and go unwrap UVW. So I've got my barrel. I'm going to open the UV editor right here. And we're going to go through and I'm going to select the top of my barrel here. And if we grow that selection, it will grow. So I'm selecting the whole thing, and I'm going to use one of these projection types. So just do a planar projection. I'm just going to click it on and click it off and move it to one side, so I know that's the top of my barrel. So I've detached the top, and you can see by the green seam what's going on there. I'm going to do the same at the bottom. I'm just going to planar like that and just move it to the side. So I've got my top, I've got my bottom. Okay, so next up I'm going to select the outside ring of my barrel. So I'm going to see that little wooden part right here. And you can see as I clicked and dragged, then I only grabbed one side of the barrel, the other side wasn't selected. This is because of this little tick box saying ignore back facing. So if I untick that and drag again, you can see we select both sides now. I'm just going to go quick selection. So I've selected my wooden, and I'm going to use a cylindrical map, and I'm just going to say fit. So it's just sitting, you can see it sits around the whole thing. Now I'm just going to move that to one side. So that's my wooden part. I'm going to select these little bolts. I'm just going to select all of them for now. And I'll just do a planar projection just to move them to one side so I can easily select. So I'm just doing it like so. So I've got those 4, and I'll come back to those in a minute. Next is these other parts right here. You can see they're all sat in small pieces around like so. Which is not ideal. Now, because the top and the bottom are actually identical, this seems a little bit of a waste of time, doesn't it? So what I'm going to do instead is to close this and say collapse 2. So I'm saving those UVs onto the model. I'm going to select this here, if I came below the symmetry and put my unwrap on that, what I'd be doing is I'd be applying the UVs to this, and then they'd be being copied to the bottom ones without any hassle. So what I'm going to do is just come down, and I'm going to fix this little error that we have here first. So let me just So this looks a little bit interesting. So this is a really good example to show fixing some polygons, because what will have happened here is when I was selecting the faces at the front to be able to break them, I must have accidentally pressed them at the back and broke those two. So I'm going to isolate them, and we can see here really what's going on. It's quite interesting shapes. So there's this one here, there's this floaty one right here, and there's some extras. So I'm just going to delete this thin one and delete the top, and delete this one right here, and this little one. So now what we've got is a shape that we can just re-weld back together again. So I'm going to come to my Adversity tool, and we've got target weld. I'm going to say weld that onto that, weld that one onto that one, and I'm going to say average weld those together, so based on distance, and so it'll pull them into place. Now we'll notice that there's this gap right here between these two, so I'm just going to bridge between those two just to refix that. So that's a nice little example of what sometimes might happen if you're not careful on when you're breaking and moving things, as you might accidentally create the wrong shape. So this is smoothing group 1, so I'm just going to swap that to 1, 4, 4, so we're okay with everything else. So that's fixed that little issue. And I'm just going to do a little more clean up over here with some back faces, just really clean up, try and lower that poly count. See, there's another one there. Okay, so that's as optimal, that's nice and clean and optimal as we can for those rings. I'm going to come back up to my Unwrap UVW, I'm going to open that, and I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to select those two little bolts, just move them to one side. Select the bottom one, do cylindrical, do the top one, so we're just creating some polygons. So let me just drag that UV on, just to double check what's going on here as we do it. So we can see what we've ended up with: a seam on that edge, and a seam that runs around the whole thing. So if I take this, you can see it actually breaks there. There's an extra seam. It's not really what we want. We want the seam to be at our actual seam of the metal. So I'm going to pull these both down. I'm just going to stretch them out. And you can see as I stretch them out, it's actually fixing, sort of creating a more uniform shape. And this one here, if I select this edge, would actually belong to this edge. And this edge would go right there, and so on. So we can see how this would actually start being built back together. So what I can do, there's multiple ways I can do this. I can come in and do target weld, say, okay, well, this belongs to that point. I'm just going to weld all those points together where they're blue. This belongs there, this belongs there, so we can just rebuild our shape. So we can see we've rebuilt that stitch up. Okay, so we've got rid of that seam. I'm just going to open that UV editor again. I'm going to select the hole. I'm just going to use the relax tool, set to polygons, just to push it out a little bit. You can see it's trying its best to try and align them, but you can see it's trying to curve itself based on the curvature of the shape, which is all well and good, and we're getting a nice thing, but it's not very good for when it comes to the texturing portion. So I'm just going to align these. I'm going to use my align tool and say I want to align those to be straight. I want those to be straight. Straighten them all out. And just using my selection tool to select what I don't want. And then the OCD in me also says I should straighten these out. And I'm just going to sort of have a look at that and say, okay, well, I'm happy with that one. Just going to stretch it out a little bit to try and get them to be square. Okay, so now we've got nice square UVs on them. So I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom one. So we'll just repeat the process. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to cylindrical map it. Now, to try and avoid having to do the stitching again, I'm going to make sure that we can see there, got the seam running at that point. I'm just going to rotate it, and as I do, see that the seam moves. It's right here, so I'm just going to move it back a little bit more, and I'm trying to get that seam right there. So it's running there, so a little bit further this way. There we go. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to do my relax. There's a little bit of an issue here where that seam's not quite broken. I'm just going to weld it like so. There you go, I'll just fix that. Rinse and repeat with my alignments. It's like seeing like quite a tedious little process, but it will help you in your modeling stage, your texturing stage. Let's have a quick look. They're a little bit stretched. Okay, so that's not too bad. Come in. Just move those in just a little bit. That'll do. A little bit stretchy on those top ones still, so it's gonna pull it out. And then shrink them down to fit into my UV space. And then we've got these to take care of, so I'm just going to select one. Select come back, select the other. I've got the two here. I'm just going to go tools, relax. Now, let's have a quick look. That'll do for those two. They're a bit, because they're so small, it's not that big of a deal. What I'm going to do, I'll actually make this separate, like so. And if we watch now, if I come back up to symmetry, the bottoms appear and they've already been UV'd, which will save us on that process. Just let me barrel, and we'll go through that process one more time. Select the top. Just going to play now like that. And then select the bottom. Play now like that. Which then leaves me with the outside edge. Cylindrical map it. And let's put our checker pattern on like always, just to double check what's going on. So, something to look at here, which will be quite interesting, is if we look at the top and I go to my tools, relax, and I relax this one, you'll see that I'll just push it out and it'll try its best to try and align it. If we do it with the bottom, see, it sort of like collapses in on itself. That's because it's trying to UV map it from above. So before I relax, I'm just going to flip it upside down and do it again. And now we get the same result that we did on the side. Now, if we look here, weirdly, there's a little seam going on. Now, I'm just going to select the outside edge, do poly relax just to see what happens. So I need to come in and weld these points together. Again, I'm going to do a weld. And this one right there, just a weld, so it's sticking them back together again. I'll do that poly again. We're just trying our best to align those. Okay. This one here is interesting, because I don't know where it belongs to. Yes, we got that. appears I have two polygons sat on top of each other. So let me just come in and go collapse 2, save those UVs. Aha, I know where that's from. It's from at the very beginning when I extruded outwards the shape. I didn't press undo too many times, so I'm just going to fix that by deleting it. So there we go, that's what happened there. Now we know. So let's come in and go back to our UVs. Bit of OCD. Tidy up. To try and get things nicely aligned up. Okay. So as I manipulate this now, its size, we're going to be making sure we try our best to get them as square as possible. So something like that. Now, we know before that we have these bands that aren't appearing on our UVs. So what I'm going to do is going to collapse. I can either collapse it to and save it, or what I'm going to do is select both. So we get two objects selected now, and I'm just going to unwrap those together, and now we can see everything on our page at once. And we just have to try our best now to get them to fill up as much of that space as possible, because we don't want to waste any space. So I'm going to do that, and there's enough space here if I want to create any extra props, like maybe a tap or anything like that. And move those to one side. I'm going to take this and I'm just going to zero it to the world. So let me just go group. This is my barrel. Zero, zero, zero.